Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ray Law International live stream. I am Anthony Ray. I'm one of the attorneys here, and I'm so glad that we have a great topic today for you guys. It's talking about the H1b. Hopefully you're going to learn a lot. We have a lot to share with you today. So thank you for joining us. And remember, as you have questions, let us know. Put those in the chat. Anai and Saki will be reminding you as we go through. So thank you and welcome. Lauren?
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm one of the attorneys here at Ray Law. So like Anthony said, if you have any questions, even if they're not related to H1b, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. Also specifically the H1b Cap lottery, since that is coming up soon. But yeah, we're really excited to see you guys and speak to you in English a bit. Anthony, you're muted.
Anai, can you introduce yourself next?
Hi, my name's Anai. I'm one of the managers here at Ray Law, and I'm really excited that we're here live with you guys today. Please drop all your questions in the chat, and one of the attorneys can answer them. Saki?
Good morning from Chicago. My name is Saki. I'm a legal assistant at the Chicago office, and I'm going to speak Japanese a little bit. おはようございます。レイロインターナショナルシカゴオフィスの佐田池です。さて、今年も H1b キャップのシーズンがやってまいりました。申請方法や申請条件等、ご質問等ございましたら、こちらのチャット、もしくは、弊事務所の電話番号、E メールにお気軽にご連絡いただければと思います。弊事務所では私も含め、他に日本人のスタッフもいますので、日本語での対応も可能です。で、また H1b キャップっていうのは、申請には期限がございますので、なるべくお早めにご連絡いただければと思います。また、H1b 以外のビザや移民法に関してのご質問も、受けたまりますので、お気軽にご連絡いただければと思います。よろしくお願いします。
All right, Anai, why don't you start us off with the first question?
Thank you, Anthony. The first question is for Lauren, and it's why is the H1B visa category so important to employers?
So this is a big one, and this is going to be the main way that employers can bring in professionals from other countries. Obviously, there are other visa categories for managers, or, we've talked about the e-visa before, but for most employers, this is going to be the probably best way to get their people that they need, highly skilled workers that they can't find in the US, possibly into the US and working for them, potentially for a longer period of time if they would like to petition for a green card. So really important that you do everything right. We can get everyone selected and everything goes smoothly.
Thank you, Lauren. So the question to Anthony, why is the H1b visa category so important to professional and then college graduates?
It's really important to professionals and college students. Unfortunately, our immigration system has not really evolved over the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So there's very few immigration categories for professionals and for college students who are professionals looking to get into the U.S. job market. And this is a big dilemma. Um, if the other visa categories just really are not a good fit for professionals, such as the H2. I mean, it's that seasonal or one-time event. The person when they're coming out of college may not meet the L1 or the E1, E2, or even E3 categories. So unfortunately, our immigration options are very limited. And when it comes to professionals who want to stay and work here a long time, the H-1B is the go-to visa category. Otherwise, there's a lot of workarounds and looking at investment visas and whatnot. It's just a lot more painful for those people, and they may not have the resources when they come out of college. So H-1B is the one for professionals and college students coming out. So, there's a battle, there's a fight for those H-1B cap numbers every year.
Thank you, Anthony. This question's for Lauren. What are my options if I'm not selected in the H1b Cap lottery in March?
So about 2 years ago, USCIS implemented a new system for the CAP lottery. It's now online, so it makes it easier for USCIS to determine if, or I guess it goes a little faster maybe for them, if people that are selected want to actually apply. Sometimes people apply the H-1B CAP through multiple employers, so if they're selected under multiple employers, obviously some of those petitions aren't going to be used. So it is possible that if you're not selected in March/April, that you could be selected in a subsequent drawing. So your chances are much less because obviously most of those people are going to take the H-1B visa and use it. However, we have had some people get lucky and get selected later on. So that's always a good thing. If you are never selected, then you would need to find some other visa category on which to stay in the US. So if you're a student, maybe you go for a master's degree. If you go back to your country and decide to just apply from abroad, if you can switch to basically any other category, definitely go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you would have to wait from abroad to try again next year.
Thank you, Lauren. So, Anthony, how many H1B visas are issued each year?
So, this is always a struggle. Each year there's a total of 85,000. Now, remember, the fiscal year for the USCIS follows our government fiscal year. That fiscal year goes from October 1st all the way to September. So if you keep that in mind, that's the way the US government fiscal year runs. So during that year, each year they give out so many visas. So of the 85,000, 20,000 are set aside for individuals with advanced degrees. Oftentimes, we just use the term master's degree or higher. But to anyone with a master's degree, U.S. master's degree or higher, PhDs, or if you want to become an attorney, an LLM or Juris Doctorate's degree, all of those degrees fit under that category. Now, the rest is 65,000. That's the general pool, the general population. And even within that, we have certain visas set aside for a couple other countries, for Singapore and others. So it's broken down. So the total pot is 85,000. Depending on your position, if you have a U.S., depending on your situation, depending on whether you have a U.S. master's degree or higher, you may have literally 2 bites at the apple or a greater chance of being selected than someone who just has a U.S. bachelor's degree or even a foreign degree that is related or equivalent to a U.S. bachelor's degree. So 85,000 is the key. It's always been that way. One thing I wanted to add is, during the prior recession that we had in 2007, 2008, the demand for H-1Bs really plummeted. So the demand for the H-1B visas, as we talk a little later, really goes with the cycle of the U.S. economy. So when employment is low in the U.S., the demand for that is going to be seen in the demand for H-1Bs. So during that recession period of time, it just really plummeted. There was H-1Bs available for everyone. The problem is that U.S. employers were not hiring. So now demand for employment, as everyone knows, is sky high. It's way up there, and so is the demand for H1Bs.
Thank you. For Lauren, what forms are used in an H1B filing?
So first off, if you use an attorney, it's going to be a Form G28. That basically just says that you are okay with the attorney representing you in the petition. After that, it's going to be the Form I-129, and you have to be sure to include the properly signed I-129H as well as the I-129DC supplements. You should also include some sort of letter from your employer describing the position and the agreement with you, things like that. And finally, if you'd like to do premium processing, that's the Form I-907.
Thank you, Lauren. So Anthony, can I file for an H1B visa directly at the US Embassy?
Well, the short answer is no, but let me explain why. Some visa categories allow you to apply for the visa directly at the U.S. Embassy. A few of those are, for example, the J1 visa. Um, in addition, you'll also have blanket L petitions, and then also the E visas, the E1, E2, and the E3. Unfortunately, H1Bs does not have a mechanism where you can bypass the USCIS and file directly with the State Department at the US embassies or consulates. So what does that mean? That means before you can get your visa stamp, or especially if you're outside the US, before you can get that visa stamp, you first got to get it approved with the USCIS. And Lauren just laid out all those forms that are required. And there's a whole bunch of other documents that are required, and we may touch on those. Feel free to ask your questions about H1Bs or any immigration question out there. We're here for you. So, you know, you once you get approved by the USCIS, if you're in the United States, your status will change to H1B. You don't need to leave. However, if you want to travel outside the US, whether that's on a cruise, go to Canada, or some other location, you most likely are going to need that H1B visa stamp. So it's at that time, once you have your approval, that you then go to the US Embassy or consulate, get that H1B visa stamp, and then come back in and continue working in H1B status.
Lauren, is there a limit of the number of H1B employees we can hire at our company?
There is not. You can hire as many H1B employees as you'd like. However, you should be aware that there is a phrase that the Department of Labor uses called H1B dependent, meaning you have a certain percentage of H1B workers versus other types of workers in your employ. If you are considered H1B dependent, your fee structure may change. It may be a bit more expensive to apply H1B petitions for those people, but there is no limit on the amount of people that you can petition for.
Thank you. So Anthony, what are the filing fees the employer should be ready to pay?
Anthony, we can't hear you.
All right, filing fees. We always want to know about the money and how much it's going to cost. While we have legal fees, that's going to depend on the law firm. But the filing fees, those are going to be static. And then you have a few options here. So the first filing fee is going to be your main filing fee. As Lauren mentioned, that's with Form I-129, and that's going to be $460. All right. And you pay that every time. Now, the next filing fee is going to be a $500 fraud prevention fee. A lot of people are concerned about the H1B category being misused by employers. So this $500 is set aside for the USCIS and other immigration-related agencies to go and investigate U.S. employers to see if they're misusing the H1B category. So it's sort of the employers paying money to police themselves. So it's really self-funded. Now, in addition to that, there's an additional fee depending on the size of the company. It's going to be the American Competitive Act fee, where basically it's going to be $750 or it's going to be $1,500. So the $750 is paid by employers who have 25 or fewer employees. The $1,500 is going to be paid by employers who have 26 or more employees. And again, these funds are supposed to go back to the community. And I say community, but and the population as whole, for training and retooling U.S. workers, and educating them to do the jobs for the future. So a lot of times people say, oh, people are taking our jobs, but this is what Congress, the politicians, have put in place to help us U.S. citizens retool and get ready for the next job or the next generation. So we have the 460, the 500, depending on the company size, it's going to be 750 or 1500. And there's one other fee that you should be aware of. That's going to be a premium processing fee. Now, premium processing is optional. You don't have to pay it. Now, the current processing times for H1Bs roughly can be anywhere from 5 to 7 months. Now, remember, you may want to start early, especially if you're in an H1b Cap situation. You may not want to wait 7 months for the government to approve your case. Or you may not want to be left in limbo as to whether they're going to approve it or not. So using premium processing is going to get your case approved within 15 calendar days. So what's the amount for premium processing? A whopping $2,500. That's right. If you want the government to do it quickly and to get it approved quickly, it's an additional $2,500. And surprisingly, most of the employers pay the premium processing fees. So as you can see, when you add those fees up, you're looking anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 just in filing fees alone to the government. And you'll see also when there's a lockdown for the government, a lot of government agencies shut down. However, the USCIS stays open because their department is funded through fees. And if you can see, if you have 85,000 employers filing 4,000 to 5,000, you can start tallying up how the USCIS is able to fund itself. So those are the related filing fees related to the H1B.
Thank you. Lauren, I heard about premium processing. What is that all about?
Yeah, so Anthony basically just went into this, but it is that $2,500 fee. The USCIS has to respond in 15 days. There was some talk about making it 15 business days, but as of right now, it is still 15 calendar days, and you will get some sort of response, either an RFE or an approval, so you can move on much faster. Sometimes the processing times are pretty bad. They may even go past the stated start date on your petition, which is October 1st. You also have the option to file regular process, and then if you are still waiting and you really need that approval notice, you can upgrade to premium processing at any time. There have been a couple times where USCIS did cut off the premium processing fee for some types of petitions. So keep that in mind. It's not guaranteed. However, for about the past year, they've kept it. So likely it will still be here for the entire time this year.
Thank you, Lauren. So Anthony, if my H1b petition is denied, what should I do?
Yeah, you should be concerned. First of all, you never want to get your H1B denied. Before I talk about what to do, what to do in a situation of denial, the better thing to do is to make sure you never end up in the position of being denied. And usually, unfortunately, the beneficiary has little control because H1B is petitioned by the employer. And some employers don't let their employees see what is going on. So, sometimes when there's a denial, it's too late. However, the key is, as a beneficiary, you can always talk with your employer If they have a law firm such as Ray Law International, you want to make sure that they're successful and they're competent in doing H1Bs. This is your future. This is your livelihood. You don't want to risk that with just taking risk or allowing even in-house company people to do it who may not have a strong interest as you do. So, what to do if your case is denied? First, wait for the decision. Read over the decision and see if the problems or the reason for the denial can be rectified or corrected easily. If it's something more serious, like, for example, the LCA was not certified, maybe you don't qualify for the position, whatever it may be, you'll have to address that. Try to get in touch with the attorney, try to work through it. Some companies, when they really need the employee, they'll put all their effort into it. So what can you do? Depending on the problem, you can file a motion to reopen. That's one option. We have a couple of videos on our YouTube channel that goes into filing a motion to reopen. Second is you can file a motion to reconsider. And it all depends on what was missing and what evidence needs to be submitted. Now, if you think the government or USCIS just plain got your case wrong, and you should be entitled to doing that, the first step you can take is filing an appeal. And what happens there is it goes up to the Board of Immigration Appeals, and then they'll make a decision. If they don't agree with you, you can then take it up to a district court or the next court level in order to continue your fight. The problem with the filing the appeal is under the law, it doesn't grant status. So if you're relying on this H1B for status, there may be other issues that you have to deal with. But those are a few options you can take when, if your case in the unfortunate situation is denied. But before that, make sure you do everything you can to make sure your case is done properly to make sure you don't end up in that situation. You just do not want to be in that situation at all. Ani, you want to go to some of the questions in the chat?
Thank you. Yeah, of course. So somebody says, good morning. How long does it take for you to get your welcome letter?
I'll jump in on this one. Not exactly sure if you could clarify, Indaria, what welcome letter means. If you mean the approval letter for the H1B, again, that's going to depend on the processing time. Again, the processing times can be anywhere from 5 to 7 months. It could take to get that approval notice, okay, if that's the welcome letter you're looking for. If it's premium processing that we talked about and Lauren touched on, it could be 15 days, and I would add 7 days for them to mail out the actual approval notice. Did you want to add anything to that, Lauren, or maybe I missed something?
Nope, I just think we need some more clarification.
Okay, yeah.
And then it looks like we had another question. Esleen Forever. So for people who speak English, apologies, this will be in Spanish. Estoy haciendo una petición para mis hermanos. Ellos tienen hijos pequeños. La pregunta es supuestamente cuando ellos vengan acá, los niños serían adultos. ¿Podrán entrar al país con edad adulta? La respuesta de esto es probablemente no. Si ellos tienen más de 21 años, eso es mayor de edad para el sistema de inmigración o migratorio, ellos no se pueden entrar como dependiente de su hermano. Su hermano se puede hacer una petición para ellos cuando él tiene su residencia aquí en los Estados Unidos, pero si ellos tienen más de 21 años, desafortunadamente con los tiempos de procesar, probablemente sí, para una petición de hermano, ellos necesitan otro tipo de visa para entrar. Posiblemente mejor si Esleen, si usted sabe alguien que tiene un negocio, se puede hacer una petición de de empleador para un trabajador. Eso es mucho más rápido. ¿Cuánto dura la petición? La petición dura para ahora el I-130 es 1 año, a lo máximo creo que es 2 años, pero el problema es que cuando usted tiene la aprobación, tiene en la aprobación una fecha de prioridad. Necesita buscar en línea el Visa Bulletin del Departamento del Estado de los Estados Unidos. Con su fecha de prioridad se puede encontrar una lista de fechas que ellos están procesando. Ahora ellos están procesando, si usted es de México, casos que fueron sometidos en las 90s. Entonces, dura muchos, muchos años la espera para estas cosas. Si sus padres, sí, para su hermano, eso es para su hermano. La aprobación viene en 1 o 2 años, pero petición de un ciudadano de los Estados Unidos para un hermano dura mucho, mucho tiempo para encontrar la fecha de prioridad. Entonces, favor de contactarnos si usted quiere hablar un poco más sobre este tema. Y posiblemente podemos buscar otro tipo de visa para su familia. And then for anyone who's just asking, she was, or who doesn't speak Spanish, she was wondering, she has a petition for her brother. She knows the processing times, or at least the visa bulletin is not moving quickly. So could her brother's children, who are now young, come to the US if they're adults at that time? The answer is probably no. If the petitions for a US citizen to a sibling are taking years and years and years and years to process. So, Anahi, if you wanted to give her the phone number in Spanish really quick, I think she's asking for it.
Sí, los puede marcar el 888-401-1016 y puede preguntar por Anaí. Yo con mucho gusto le doy la consulta.
And for those, the phone number to reach us at is 888-401-1016. And Vladimir is waiting for your call. So, feel free to give him a call. He's ready to set an appointment so you can speak with one of us directly so that we can take care of you. Do we have another question? Or are we back to our sets questions?
We're back to you, Anthony. So the question for you, Anthony, is I was told my company is H1b dependent. What does that mean?
Excellent. H1b dependent companies. So I'm not going to get into all the details, but basically for companies that hires a lot of H1b holders, it really depends on the size of the company. If you have 10 employees, 20 or more than 25, there's a certain percentage. So if the majority, just simply put, if there's a lot of H1b workers at your company, generally it's IT, but not always IT. They're probably H1b dependent. Now, does that really matter to the beneficiary? Not so much. Now, what the government did is for H1b dependent employers who have a large number of H1b workers, what they did is they made some requirements that, for example, they have to pay them a certain wage, okay? Or if they didn't pay that wage, they had to do additional recruitment to make sure that there are no U.S. workers available to do that job. So we have been dealing with H1b dependent the dependency for many years. We have a few clients that are in that situation, and it has never been a problem. One of the reasons is a lot of the H1b dependent employers are already paying their employees very well. There are smaller employers that are, maybe don't have the resources and just trying to get by. But all in all, employers, the medium to larger size employers, they're paying their IT professionals anywhere, depending on location, $80,000 and up. So H1b dependent employers, not necessarily a big problem for the beneficiary. If you are an employer and you're watching this, feel free to touch base with us. We'll sit down with you or your HR and go over what that really means. It's a very easy thing to overcome, and we've been dealing with it for years, so not a problem, not much of a problem to deal with.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. One more question. Are H1Bs only for professionals?
Well, the definition doesn't say per se professionals. It tends to be professionals, but that idea of what is a professional, that definition is very broad, and it is defined in the regulations. So mainly it's a person in a specialty occupation that requires a 4-year degree. Now, we use professional because it's an easier term than saying that whole long sentence. So, but professional positions ranges everywhere from, doctors, lawyers, accountants, engineers, IT professionals. It's interesting. It does not include a majority of nurses, although there are exceptions. If you have a master's degree in nursing, you may qualify for an H1B, but unfortunately it doesn't at this point qualify. There's other categories such as operational managers, market research analysts. And so the whole point of this is don't get hung up on what you may think a professional it is. Let the attorney evaluate the job duties, the position, and make sure that the position fits within the guidelines of the regulation. That's sort of the skill, the art that the attorney brings to the H1B process in order to get it approved. Now, there are some cases I've seen, for example, travel agencies, for example, trying to show that the certain positions are H1b caliber. Now, some positions are just really challenging, and your attorney or your law firm should be upfront with you about the challenges it may take. But you hire in a law firm because of our creativity and our know-how of the law to get certain cases approved. So, yes, I've heard of many positions get approved in all industries, even though at first glance it may not appear to be what you or I think is professional. So the key, make sure you have your attorney review it, look at all options, and understand the risk, both from the employer and for the employee, of whether your job is professional. The good thing is the definition of what is specialty occupation has really taken on a more broader sense, which is great, especially in the IT industry. So we're seeing things that were really challenged in the past 4 or 5 years. They're now a lot, they're an option, and they're getting approved. It's going a lot smoother as they used to, 10, 15 years ago. And we're getting approved. And that's really great for the employer and the employees. So, things are looking good on that sense, but we really want these borders to open up so that we can get people going in and out of the United States in various categories, not just the H1B.
Yay, thank you. So now we're going to move on to one of our questions that we like to do in the middle. It's kind of a get to know you question for our attorneys and our staff. So I'll start off with Mr. Anthony. Do you like roller coasters?
Do I like roller coasters? So just a little backstory. I grew up in the Midwest, and the amusement park that we always went to is in Ohio. It's called Cedar Point. I don't know if anyone in the audience has been there before. Please note it in the chat. Let me know if you've been to Cedar Point. If not, Google it and check it out. But that's where we used to always go. Since then, there's been a lot of amusement parks in other locations. I did enjoy roller coasters when I was young, and it was a lot of fun. But I think as I get older and as the roller coasters became a lot larger and a little bit more traumatizing, maybe. I don't have as much of a love for them. I think the last time I went with my family, I think I came out of there with a massive headache. Just because my head was going back and forth. It's kind of like a boxing match, and people just beating your head up because your head's rattling back and forth. So, unfortunately, as I get a little bit older, my body, specifically my brain, does not enjoy the roller coasters, even though it's a great experience. And one thing I did, another note on that is Cedar Point, the prices. There was a recent note out there where the prices have, when we first started, it was like 25 bucks to go, and now it's close to $100 per person. So it just shows you the cost that has increased. I know everyone's talking about inflation nowadays, but you can just see how much more it costs, even for, sort of a major amusement park. I mean, it's not Walt Disney World or Universal, but it still can be quite costly, to ride those.
Thanks, Anthony. Next, Saki, do you like roller coasters?
I would say yes, I do. Even though every time when we are going up, that's the time I regret everything. Like I regret why I'm doing this. And then once it's going down, I'm just like, let it be, let it be. One day I'm gonna make it. And I always look amazing in the last spot, the photo moment. I look amazing. All my friends laugh so hard every time when the photo moment happens. So yeah, I do love it, but I can tell by aging every year when I try it, I can feel more pressure in my like on my heart. So I think someday, one day, I should maybe stop getting the roller coaster, but still, it's fun. Yeah.
And that's one thing. When we were growing up, we didn't have that whole photos being taken, and I think that's just that's the best thing that they have nowadays. So that's worth going on the roller coasters nowadays.
Lauren, do you like roller coasters?
Um, Not crazy much, but I do. I like going around Halloween when they have all the scary stuff around, and Fright Fest, it's called, and they're fun. I'm not, getting a season pass, but I'll go on the roller coaster. And what about you, Annie?
So I actually can say that I have Six Flags Fiesta Texas kind of in my backyard. It's like 3 minutes away from my house. But I am extremely scared of roller coasters. I actually have a funny story. The last time I went to Six Flags, all my friends pressured me to get on one, and I already had told them I have a lot of anxiety. I am going to cry. And they're like, no, it's fine. Just get on. And I sobbed like bloody murder the entire roller coaster. And now my friends actually believe me that I'm scared, but I still got on. Okay, so now we can go ahead and wrap it up with the fun question, and I'm going to move on to Lauren. So, can you explain the cap gap to me a little bit more?
Yeah, so the cap gap is for students who are currently on F1 status that are graduating in the May, June time of the current year. So if you are, let's say you graduate, you're on F1, obviously your status is going to expire once you graduate. However, the H1b start date doesn't start till the next USCIS fiscal year, which is October 1st. So in between that time, those few months in the summer, those students would all be out of status. So USCIS realizes this. So what they do is they allow those persons that, since their H1b is approved, they will have their status automatically extended until October 1st. So those students do not need to worry about flying home for some months if they don't want to. You definitely could, but you don't have to. You can stay in the US. You cannot work until that October 1st start date, but you can stay in the US, get everything ready, and then just start automatically when October 1st kicks in.
Thank you, Lauren. So the next question to Anthony. When should I start the process for initial H1b Cap subject candidate? Oh, you're muted.
You should start right now today. If you're thinking about H1Bs for the cap season, start now. The reason for that is there's a lot of work that needs to go before we even get to the selection, the registration period. So the company needs to be registered with the USCIS to make sure that they're properly in the system and they're all set to go. And then the attorney's link or the attorney side also needs to be set up. And also, more importantly, you need to make sure that your candidates even qualify for the H1B. Okay, what does that mean? That means it's simple. Someone says, "Oh, I have a 4-year degree." Well, it looks on paper they have a 4-year degree, but when we do an evaluation, it's actually not equivalent to a U.S. 4-year degree. And all too often, you'll get a candidate looking on paper, they qualify, but they really don't. So the value added of starting early is to make sure, one, that you qualify. Then to be set up in the registration system. So the time to start is now. The registration period is going to be in March. I think we're still waiting on the USCIS for the specific days that the window is going to be open, but it's manageable. The system now, basically, as everyone may already know, is everyone registers. It's a $10 fee to the government to register. We had 300,000 plus individuals, applications or registrations submitted, and out of that 300,000 plus number, 85,000, a little bit more, of course, for denials. Now, Lauren mentioned that there were other, usually they make their notice and selection at the end of March so that we can start filing in April, but oftentimes people don't qualify or they get denied for other reasons. And then at probably July or August, they'll say, hey, we're going to select a few more. So then we get a few more notices of people who qualify. And to everyone's dismay, and some were quite upset, the USCIS had to even do a third one last year, which really threw all of us off because they've never done that before. And it's really tough because some people have already moved on, made other decisions. Employers have done the same. And it's a little too late to say, hey, there's an H1 actually available, when people have already moved on or thought that they were not selected. So we're hoping that the USCIS, as they did in the past, can, take in enough people. Usually they take, of course, they're going to take more than 85,000 because there's this percentage of cases that are denied. So the time to start for the H1b Cap is now. It's never too soon to start.
Thank you. For Lauren, are all H1b cases subject to the H1b Cap?
No, they are not. If your position is with certain nonprofits or more likely a university system, you will not be subject to the cap. There are also non-cap subjects petitions for nationals from Chile and from Singapore. For those nationals, there's a treaty with the US, so those people are not subject to the cap. Obviously, it doesn't affect most people, only nationals from those countries, but it does help people from those countries. But however, if you use, let's say you're working for a university and you want to take another position in the US, at that time, if it is a private employer, you would need to undergo the H1b Cap. You can't just start at a university and then keep working on H1b. At some point, if you want to work for a private employer, you will have to undergo the H1b Cap.
Thank you, Lauren. So Anthony, what are the processing times for initial H1b Cap cases?
You're muted,
muted
Anthony.
Now, I probably touched on this a couple times today. However, it's okay to go over it again. So the average processing time can range anywhere from 5 to 7 months right now. The USCIS is in a little disarray, meaning I'm assuming they don't have enough employees to process all the cases that they see. But you can probably plan on 5 to 7 months. Now, again, if you're using premium processing, that's going to reduce that to 5 calendar days, which is excellent. It's a lot of money, but at least you have some certainty. Now, one of the things we didn't talk about before is what could cause this to go longer. Um, Inefficiencies within the government is one, and we see that on a number of petitions and applications. Another one is the infamous request for evidence, or an RFE. The RFE is where the government is asking for more documentation or clarification for qualifying for the H1b category, whether it's from the employer side or the beneficiary side, or for verifying that the person has maintained their status. Maybe they're coming from an L visa or E visa or some other category, and the USCIS wants to make sure they maintain their status. So a request for evidence could be issued and can prolong the process. Now, obviously, having premium processing, even in light of the RFE, you're going to get a quicker result. And very few people want to wait out the 7 or 8 months. Now, one last thing is you can upgrade your case. So let's say you want to file with regular processing, you can upgrade that to premium processing later on in the process if you get a little antsy and you want to get a resolution in your case and certainty so that you can plan things to go in the future.
Thank you. So the next one is for Lauren. What are the processing times for other H1b type cases?
So I think this means like an H1b extension case, you're working for the same employer still, but your 3 years is up, so you need to extend again. Or maybe you take a different position within that company, so you'd need to file an H1b amendment, or you move locations, same position, but you move locations, you would need to file an amendment. Those are going to vary also depending on the service center, which is handling your case. What service center to file at is determined where the petitioner is located with its headquarters. So you can't just pick and choose, unfortunately, which service center is looking the best at which time. You do need to file to a certain service center and you are stuck with those times. But in general, they have been speeding up a bit more, but you're looking at probably 6 to 8 months. Some of the service centers are really backed up. That may be even longer. But like I said, you could choose the premium processing if the time is getting too long to wait.
Thank you, Lauren. So Anthony, next question. What is the specialty occupation for H1B visas?
I'm going to make sure I unmute myself this time, but I'm going to read the definition, which is very technical, but some of the people out there, they may want to know exactly what it is. So it's the theoretical and practical application of a body of highly specialized knowledge and attainment of a bachelor's or higher degree in a specific specialty or its equivalent as a minimum for entry into the occupation in the U.S. So that, very detailed definition is what we work with. There's been case law and everything that further defines that and expands that and contracts what that meaning is. I touched on this a little bit before. Some of our obvious ones are engineers, doctors, accountants. Some of the other ones, we didn't really talk about the medical field. A lot of positions in the medical field meet this category. Dentists, physicians, scientists, also psychologists, professors. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Again, don't assume. Reach out to us. Let us evaluate the position, and we'll work with you to see where we can make a fit and make sure that your position qualifies. A very common one is, manager or president. And, we've worked with companies along those in the H1b and the H1b venue to make sure that those people actually do qualify for a specialty occupation. So that gives you an idea what a specialty occupation is, more on the technical side, but on the practical side, those are the positions that really do qualify.
Thank you. Anthony, we have a question from Pablo. in the comments. He says, "Hello, I have a case with you about BAWA. How long does it take for the travel and work permit to arrive after? And how safe is it to travel with that travel permit?"
Okay. Well, normally, for individual specific cases, I'm going to talk really general. If we have a client or they're, talking to us directly, we don't give specific advice, of course, to the public. Let's see. Travel or work permit. Lauren, you want to, let's see. I'm going to say right now, probably 12 months right now. And because they're really backlogged.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the processing time. I would have to look that up. And also, I'm not sure if it was just a translation or Pablo, if you do have a case with us, I'm not the attorney in charge of your case, obviously, or otherwise I would recognize you. But for the travel permits, especially if you currently do not have another type of status in the US, we definitely do not recommend using it unless it is an absolute emergency. With the travel permit, it does not guarantee you entry back into the US. It can, if the CBP officer, if you present it to the CBP officer and they accept it, they'll let you in. And probably, in I think most cases, they would. However, it is not guaranteed. A CBP officer can deny you for any reason, even if you have that approved travel permit. So usually we say, unless someone is dying and another, a family member dying, something like that. Anthony?
Yeah, the other thing I want to add, just to give you an idea, Pablo, a work permit, all others for this, right now, as I mentioned, the USCIS is way behind on their work. It can take anywhere from, 7.5 to 14 months. That's how far behind they are. And that's if you're at the California Service Center. So what information is missing, Pablo, is you need to let us know where that work permit or travel document is pending, and then we can sort of hone in on that. Feel free to email us or let us know, and we can kind of give you a little bit more precise. But either way, it's going to be a while.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question. This one's for Lauren. What advice would you give to employers and HR about the H1b process?
Like Anthony said, definitely to start early, get all your ducks in a row, make sure you have all the documentation required as early as possible so you're not scrambling to hit any of those deadlines. You're not going to miss anything in some sort of rush because you waited until the last minute. Another thing would be talk to an attorney. I know we always say that, but we deal with these cases a lot, so we know what USCIS is looking for. We know what types of information is required. Some people, for example, maybe put too basic of a job description. So if we see your job description, we don't think it's descriptive enough, we'll let you know and we'll kind of ask the right questions to say, you could add something here. How does this work? Can you explain a little more and make sure it's really fleshed out so that the USCIS officer can understand? There's also, you need to put percentage values of time on each job duty. A lot of people don't realize that. And then the USCIS is possibly going to issue you an R fee. So things like that, consulting with your attorney, getting everything in early are definitely going to be a big advantage to you in getting it approved.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Anthony, what are some common issues that you see in the H1b cases?
Well, I'm going to sort of piggyback, and Lauren can jump in afterwards as we talk about this. I think some of the major common issues that we see is people choose a specialty occupation or what they think is a specialty occupation that really is not H1b caliber. Um, some employers may not take the time or effort in order to make sure that the position that's selected, the job duties, as Lauren had mentioned, are detailed enough in order to meet those requirements. Another thing, from time to time, sometimes the employer doesn't have the financial means to support that foreign national in the H1b category. Maybe they're a small startup company, they have no contracts, no revenue, and they don't have, for example, an in-client letter to show that there is actual work for that individual. I think there was a recent lawsuit against a major employer where there was no evidence of work. And the USCIS is really cracking down. People don't see this in the public, but the USCIS is checking on these employers, and where there is appearances or apparent fraud, they're looking into it. They're asking questions, not just at the H1B, but even throughout the whole green card process. So those are a couple things, common things that we see. I mean, normally we coach and guide our clients so we don't have these issues. One other thing I would like to add is sometimes, of course, people are benched. And of course, benching an employee is not allowed under H1B. That means you have to continue to work. You can't have them stay at home or, be out of work for a period of time. So oftentimes, well, not often, but once in a while, we'll see an employer who has an issue and the employee wants to transfer, and we ask for pay stubs and they don't have pay stubs. Or the wage that they're supposed to be paid is not the wage that is on the pay stubs. So those are not common specifically to our clients because we make sure we avoid all of those things. However, I think in the industry, there are some clients out there that maybe aren't guided as closely and as properly as our clients are that do run into those issues. And Lauren, do you think you have anything to add that, or maybe some common issues out there?
You pretty much covered it. Nothing more that I would really add to that. Yeah, I mean, there's one-off specific cases, but in general, for trends, Anthony's pretty much summed it up.
Another thing to be careful about is when people go back and to get their H1B visa, just because you have that H1B approval notice by the USCIS, it doesn't guarantee you that they're going to issue that visa stamp at the consulate. You got to prove, for example, that you still qualify. It's sort of like a reanalysis of the whole process. While the embassy is not supposed to do that, oftentimes people will get challenged. For example, always taking updated in-client letters or current pay statements or verifying where they're working at. The U.S. consulate and embassies do go to great lengths to make sure that H-1B holders are doing what they're supposed to. I think the H-1B category is, well policed compared to other categories out there. And that's due because, one, the $500 fee that's included, it gives the government the resources to follow up on the H-1B holders. So I guess the main thing to remember in this is, avoid those, get the representation, get the attorney involved. Yes, it costs money, but it's going to, one, save a lot of heartache and pain, but for those employers out there, it's going to make you a heck of a lot of money having that employee there so they can be very productive and move forward. So is that all the questions we have for today? I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Feel free to go ahead and, send us a message, email us, text us. We're on WhatsApp. Reach out to us. We're here today for you guys in order to, help you with your immigration challenge. Spanish is fine. Español está bien. Nihongo de moi, Japanese, or any other language, if you have some help. Don't go through the immigration process without the proper help and with someone you can trust and who's really going to take good care of you. Anything else anyone would like to add? We're all set? Well, thank you, everyone. And we do have, look for our schedule for next month. We have both our Spanish coming up at the beginning of the month, and then a week later after that, we'll have another English immigration webinar. and with some topics for you guys. So thank you guys once again, and we will see you next time. Okay.